all know what causes depression. It's low serotonin. Who told us that? It was the pharmaceutical companies. What possible reason could they have for that? They sell pharmaceutical products. That can't be the only reason, can it? Can it? Hello there, you 5.8 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining us on this voyage towards truth. Have you ever wondered what following the science and trusting the science actually means? This is what I think it means, is to use empirical evidence to demonstrate facts and then you act in accordance with those facts. As a person that's suffered from depression and been prescribed depression medication, I'm well aware that the reason that people get depressed is low serotonin. That's what we all think, right? Anyone that's ever been prescribed antidepressant meds was taking it because of low serotonin. That's why we took the meds. Let's see what's on the news today then.
For decades, scientists have believed depression is linked to lower levels of serotonin in the brain. That belief has shaped treatment and helped create a multi-billion-dollar market for antidepressant drugs.
Yeah, but that's just a coincidence. I mean, the old multi-billion-dollar market for antidepressant drugs, I mean, they wouldn't just do it for that, would they? They've probably got evidence of some kind that serotonin being low causes depression. They wouldn't just say that and then create a load of products that weren't doing anything and possibly making things worse.
Helped create a multi-billion-dollar market for antidepressant drugs. But it may be wrong.
Maybe wrong. He's very relaxed about the news, isn't he, this geezer? He's perfect mainstream media news guy. Maybe wrong. Not seeing any problems with that. That's just life. People make mistakes all the time. Even as a boy, I once introduced into the market an opioid drug that turns out was very addictive and killed a lot of people. He didn't do that. I'm just suggesting that he's quite relaxed. No one did release drugs into the market, did they, that were highly addictive? Of course they did. The same pharmaceutical industry.
According to research published in the journal Molecular Psychiatry, there is no convincing evidence that problems with serotonin actually cause depression.
Obviously, prescriptions for antidepressants have risen dramatically since the 1990s when we were told that they were effective and that they worked. 13% of Americans aged 18 and over take antidepressant medication. 1 in 6 adults and 2% of teenagers in England are now being prescribed antidepressant medication, all based on evidence that seems spurious, or actually evidence that was never there. 85 to 90% of the public believe depression was caused by low serotonin or a chemical imbalance. People don't just believe that out of the blue. People believe it because we were explicitly told it, like the earth is round and the government is reliable. All things that seem to be questioned quite regularly these days.
Nothing was more important than treating my depression.
Some things are more important than treating depression. For example, not releasing into the market drugs that are unreliable based on no evidence. I'm not saying that that's true of Wellbutrin, of course.
And with once daily Wellbutrin XL, I feel like me again.
Anything in particular that's nice about this Wellbutrin you're taking?
And I have to say it's nice that there's a low risk of sexual side effects.
I like that. One of the things I like is the low risk of sexual side effects. I don't want no risk at all. Where's the fun in that? I like to know that I'm dicing with a sexual side effect.
Wellbutrin XL effectively treats depression with a low risk of sexual side effects.
Also, why is this woman being contextualised as a horse rider? Which sort of suggests to me that her sexual kicks are all achieved while in the saddle. I mean, there's a little bit of risk that I won't enjoy this as much as normal, but it's a low risk. Giddy up, horsey!
It feels great to enjoy being around people again.
Oh yeah, people, they're great, aren't they? I mean, now that there's no risk, or just a low risk at least, of sexual side effects, I can start lingering and loitering around my fellow man and woman.
Wellbutrin XL is not for everyone.
Does that like Wellbutrin is not for everyone? Like it's a matter of taste, like they're like Birkenstock, or they're like shoes, but each toe's got its own little house. But it's not that, is it? It's like what kind of people it's not for? I don't know, like people who have seizures? Why? Because it'll give them seizures. That's a medical issue. It's not like style, is it? It's like dyeing your hair blue. It's like dying.
There is a risk of seizure when taking Wellbutrin XL. This risk can increase, so don't use if you've had a seizure or eating disorder, or if you abruptly stop using alcohol or sedatives. Don't take with MAOIs or medicines that contain bupropion.
Look at this, they're trying to pass on all these terrible potential side effects while just watching this geezer knocking out a wok full of dinner.
With a nicotine patch alone, there is a risk of increased blood pressure, sometimes severe. To reduce risk of serious side effects, tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems.
It's also putting a lot of onus on you, and I suppose that's a lot of what prescribed pharmaceutical drugs do. They suggest that the individual is culpable for the problems that they're experiencing, preventing us from ever looking at the kind of social problems that lead people to be depressed.
It works for my depression with a low risk of sexual side effects.
You're grinning ringing from ear to ear about his low risk of sexual side effects. From across the panoply, all humanity, all genders, all races, just a low risk of sexual side effects and a lot of risk of equine fun.
Ask your doctor about once daily Wellbutrin XL.
All of this has come about, of course, because of the revelation that low serotonin isn't what causes depression, or at least there's no evidence that it is. That study comes from Joanna Moncrief. She's the lead author and professor of psychiatry at University College London, and she said, "Our view is that patients should not be told that depression is caused by low serotonin or by a chemical imbalance, and that they should not be led to believe that these antidepressants work by targeting these unproven abnormalities." Well, it's abnormal. It's not been proved. Let's proceed. She also added, "We do not understand what antidepressants are doing to the brain exactly." Oh, that's reassuring. We understand that they're causing seizures and that there's a low risk of losing your sex drive. And giving people this sort of misinformation prevents them from making an informed decision about whether to take antidepressants or not. Yeah, if you lie to people and tell them that antidepressants work, that might lead them to take antidepressants. And that also leads me to question whether or not there are other products that are being advanced and pushed across cultures and society at large that are unproven, without naming any particular drugs or substances that are made by the very same companies that in the past have made drugs that were addictive and marketed them at drug addicts, for example, or, in the case of this little antidepressant, created what I consider to be a wonder drug, particularly if your main concern in life is making your little tin dolly work correctly.
Depression is a serious medical condition that can take so much out of you. I feel like I have to wind myself up just to get out of bed.
Firstly, I don't like that she's got a clockwork voodoo doll of herself that's so sort of down in the dumps like that. And the whole thing, I suppose, begs the question, well, if antidepressants don't work, why are they being marketed? Could there be any other reason?
Pristique is a prescription medicine proven to treat depression. Pristique is thought to work by affecting the levels of two chemicals in the brain.
No, it does work, and let's see how. Mostly it's by these little trumpet snouts coughing up pollen at one another.
Serotonin and norepinephrine.
You've got norepinephrine and you've got serotonin, and they're going up each other's little trumpet snouts, and you'll be right as rain in a fortnight. Put one of them up your bum every Monday, you'll have no problem. Your clockwork dolly will be singing in the rain.
Tell your doctor right away if your depression worsens.
Because we'd be glad of the information, because we ain't got a fucking clue what these things do. Why don't you tell us if the drugs are working? Why don't you tell us if there are any yellow card adverse events? And in 75 years, we'll get right back to you and tell you exactly what went on, once we've made a profit and everyone involved in this terrible scam is dead. Talking about this story.
Or you have unusual changes in mood, behavior, or thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, that's a little bit depressing. I don't feel less depressed when I think about suicide. You, like, I've been a bit depressed lately. I'll get some of the old Pristique down the gullet. Figure out suicide now, which is a step in the right direction. Just not going to mention this to you. It's probably nothing. The antidepressant drug market size exceeded 13.5 billion in 2020 and is anticipated to grow at over 7% between 2021 and 2027. I don't even know why I told you that, because that's irrelevant information. Just get rid of that. That's pointless. Why is that turned up? What, you think? Oh, I see. You thought that we used scant evidence to market a drug to make a profit. We invented that drug as a surprise present for your birthday, and you've ruined it. You're just like your father.
Antidepressants can increase suicidal thoughts and behaviors in children, teens, and young adults. Pristique is not approved for children under 18.
Not yet, but we'll keep fucking pushing. We'll have them straight off the tit and onto the Pristique by the time we've lobbied Congress hard enough. Financial contributions from the pharmaceutical industry have jumped in each presidential election cycle since 2012, reaching $90 million in 2020, a 170% increase from the previous decade. And again, another weird coincidence, don't even know why I'm telling you. 72 senators and 302 members of the House of Representatives received money from the pharmaceutical industry ahead of the 2020 election, 2/3 of Congress. But just because 2/3 of a vote in assembly receive financial contributions from the pharmaceutical industry doesn't mean that they would, for example, let them market a drug that has no evidence that it's effective, even though it does seem that everything I've said is true.
Do not take Pristique with MAOIs. Taking Pristique with NSAID pain relievers, aspirin, or blood thinners may increase bleeding risk.
Got a lot of side effects to this Pristique. I wonder who made it. Let's have a look. Pfizer. Pfizer, I've heard of them. They've been in the news lately. Oh yeah, I remember them. They're really great guys, really good here. I might get a tattoo of them, I think, somewhere on my body to celebrate them for all this work they're doing. Marketing Prestige and getting a clockwork dolly in tip-top shape again. Pfizer contributed to 228 lawmakers and 1,000 individual candidates in state legislative races. Is there no end to their compassion and love for humanity? 1 minute they're making a lovely vaccine for the coronavirus, the next minute they're making this lovely Prestige, then they're giving money to Congress and the Senate. I mean, if Jesus was a pharmaceutical company, he'd be Pfizer. In financial disclosures filed last year, lawmakers reported holding tens of millions of dollars in pharmaceutical stocks. Congress continued to invest in these companies, even as it debated how to deal with rising drug prices. Pfizer is one of the most popular stocks in Congress, with 48 lawmakers placing their bet on the drug maker that hikes its prices each year. Almost as if they know stuff's going to go well for Pfizer. Now, as you know, on this channel, we're not interested in conspiracy theories. We are interested in having a bit of a laugh, and we are interested in reporting facts, and nothing that I've said to you isn't true. And if that doesn't make you leap to conclusions in other areas, or at least ponder potential ideas about the good intentions of those industries, then you've got a bigger heart than I have. But be careful with that heart, because if you take enough prescribed medication, that little guy might give up, the evidence suggests.
Tell your doctor about all your medications, including those for migraine, to avoid a potentially life-threatening condition.
Also, how long is she going to look at that little bloody doll? I mean, all right, it's better now. Move on. 47 lawmakers reported investing in Johnson & Johnson, despite the drug makers' role in the devastating opioid epidemic. Not their fault, trying their hardest. And in 2020 alone, the pharmaceutical industry spent $6.5 billion on advertising. So I suppose the media then probably want to have a good relationship with Pfizer. Oh, what? You mean, what? Maybe the companies that give them a lot of money, they don't say things like, hey, where's the evidence that your products work? Your products that are sponsoring this show. And that reminds me, this show is brought to you by oranges. Oranges have no negative side effects. And if you think there's anything wrong with this orange, then you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, well, you think that I'd just say that the orange is good because they sponsor the show? You've got a very low opinion of me and a very low opinion of yourself. What you need is some bloody Prestige. What do you mean it don't work and there's no evidence that it works? Do you want your clockwork dolly to get better or not? I'm not going to just stand by and let my clockwork dolly deteriorate just because you've got questions based on science and there's no evidence that low serotonin leads to depression, and people said that it did just so they could sell drugs, and that makes you question whether the whole pharmaceutical industry is perhaps inclined towards a little bit of impropriety in the pursuit of profit. And if you do ask those kind of questions of yourself and of the world, then you're probably a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that those drugs don't work or that you shouldn't take any popular medicines that are being currently prescribed, suggested, and rather aggressively recommended. I'm saying that if you do have doubts, and those doubts were based on some of the information that we just told you, I don't think the right way to describe you as a conspiracy theorist is probably a person with a mind and with eyes who's able to assess data correctly, or at least to be circumspect about information. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think. What you think is a lot more important, particularly if you're taking any of these antidepressants. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Remember to turn on the notification bell to help you ride out that algorithm. Let me know your experiences with prescription medications. Check out those two videos. And more important than any of this stuff, please stay free.